I don't know much about horses, but I'm assuming that's not a real horse. Rachel's got a gun. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. Hello and welcome back to the original Huggsy channel. Today I'm going to look at the weirdest Friends photo shoots that were ever shot, either for promotional stuff or for magazine interviews. I'm going to rank them to find out which one truly was the weirdest. Trust me, there are some strange ones. Let's dive right in. So firstly, this sort of ancient Greek one is pretty weird. Not the weirdest I've seen. The headdresses on the girls are quite interesting, particularly Monica's. That's a lot going on there. It feels incredibly out of place with the show and the cast. One element I really do like, and I don't know if it's coincidental or intentional, but the fact that Phoebe is the one holding the musical instrument, because obviously she's the one who plays guitar in the show. So it's a nice touch that she's the one holding the harp here. But apart from that, I just don't get the choices, you know? Also, the guys are wearing is Chandler in jeans? I can't tell if that's like denim or like velvet, but yeah, it's unusual. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 on the weirdness scale. This one I think is quite famous for like the Friends promotional shots. Obviously this feels much more similar to the kind of show it was. They're playing poker, which obviously they do famously in one of their episodes. Monica and Rachel's clothes almost look like nightwear. Don't know if that's intentional or not. Chandler's shirt as well also looks a bit nightwear-y, but it's just a lot of silk. I think it looks like, maybe it's just silk. Maybe it's just nice silk clothing. I'm just realizing now that like how fake the background is. That's obviously just a flat, just like a painting or like a drawing behind them. It's all right. It's not too weird. It's quite nice. There's some cigar smoking, which obviously really doesn't happen in the show at all. Kind of weird that they kind of look like they're in nightwear. So I'll give it a 3 out of 10 on the weirdness scale. Now this next one is, I could find 3 photos from this photo shoot of them in a car junkyard. These are definitely up there with some of the weirdest. Again, here's a shot of them playing poker, just in a junkyard. And the holding hands here, what was happening? Some of them are kind of smiling, some of them aren't. They're standing in between a row of massive piles of cars. Like imagine if you showed this to someone who didn't know what Friends was as a show and said, what do you think the show is about? They'd probably be like, I have no idea. I was gonna say maybe they work at a junkyard, but obviously those aren't the kind of clothes you'd be wearing to work at a junkyard. Maybe they think it might be like a Schitt's Creek kind of scenario where they have been like, they're these sort of middle class fancy people who have now having to work or live in a junkyard or something. But these are so weird. Like I can't imagine the person who said, let's go take these photos with a pile of bashed up cars behind them. What was the intention here? They're wearing normalish clothing for them, so I'm not gonna mark them down for that, but I'm gonna give this a strong 6 out of 10 for weirdness. This one's quite nice, but the angle of like having them lying down awkwardly on the stairs and having the photographer above them just looks really strange. It looks like a New York stoop, so credit for that. It seems very much placed in New York where obviously the show takes place. The holding hands thing is kind of cute, so not a problem with that. Although weirdly, obviously Monica and Ross move, like their hands move as the photo is taken, so we get that blurry hand, which I'm surprised they let that through. Actually, it's a little bit blurry down near Rachel's legs as well. The idea of the photo shoot is fine. I think the weirdness is just the concept behind this shot in particular and how this photo has been made of them weirdly lying on the steps. I mean, like Joey is so sort of having to look up. It's really weird, and that couldn't have been pleasant to shoot. That's for sure. So I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 10 on the weirdness scale, because again, the idea isn't that weird, but the photo really, really is. This one's pretty weird. This one is up there for sure. The cowboy outfits, the very long extended horse. I have a lot of questions. A lot of questions. Also, they each have like different expressions on their face. Rachel seems to be like concerned or confused about something. Ross is just wondering what Monica's up to. Monica and Phoebe are sort of just smiling at the camera. Chandler looks slightly concerned as well, and Joey is just blue steel, straight down the lens. I was gonna say driving that horse, but that's not the right term. The extended horse. Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to know how they took this photo though, because obviously, I don't know much about horses, but I'm assuming that's not a real horse. So they must have, maybe they sat them on like green screen boxes and then they just green screen them on. Outfits as well. Rachel's got a gun. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 on the weird scale. This one in the bathtub is quite cute. It feels relatively frenzy because you can imagine those kind of bathtubs in the apartments they were in. They seem to be having fun. The smile on Chandler's face with the rubber duck is great. I love Rachel using the tap, like the spray nozzle, as a phone. I think Joey's looking off as if he's sort of searching for something. He's got something in his hand, which I'm assuming is a telescope, periscope. I'm gonna have to find out which one in the edit. Which is a fun little detail. But I wish, if that was, I mean, you can't really see what it is, but I like the idea of it's not a telescope or a periscope, but it's something bathroom related that he is using instead of it, as Rachel is, for example, using the nozzle there as a phone. But it's fun, I like it. It's a really nice one. You get some of the personality, some of the character. It's a bit weird how it's obviously not in a bathroom and there's this wall behind them that's framed intentionally so you can see sort of that it's not a real wall, but I like it. It's a fun one. This is a classic. I actually have this framed up in my old bedroom. I really like this photo of them. I like obviously how it's New York and it's referencing the history of it, and I think this photo in particular is obviously referencing a very famous photo of some of the workers back in the day building these skyscrapers. I think some of them are even sort of replicating the same positions that those workers were in. So that's really cool to see. Really like the idea behind this. I think they've executed it well. The costumes are great. The smiles are nice. It seems very natural. It's one of my favorites. I don't think it's that weird. I think it's done really well. So maybe a 1 on the weirdness scale, but it's definitely up there for me as one of my favorites. This one with them like on the shapes on the wall, I'm more interested than I think it's weird. I think it is quite nice actually. I like the contrast of the sort of orangey red wall with the white shapes that they're in, and they're in black and white. I think that's really nice. They kind of did this, everyone holding hands, but then just forgot about Ross and Phoebe and Monica. Phoebe holds one of Monica's feet. It seems like they had this idea on the day of the photographer and they just didn't complete it. I think it looks a bit weird because they're just literally just leaving Ross out of this hand/foot holding gathering that they were doing. Don't know why Rachel is barefoot. Maybe be to get her foot in that little tiny bit of triangle at the bottom there, but that seems a bit strange how all the others have shoes on. But I like the idea. It's a bit different. It is a little bit weird in a good way. I'll give this a 4 out of 10 on the weirdness scale. Don't know what's going on here. I think actually this might have been part of a Diet Coke campaign that they did for the Super Bowl where like someone drank the Diet Coke, but I don't know for sure. Don't love it. Actually, David Schwimmer reminds me of that viral video a couple years ago of a British police video about a suspect that they were looking for, someone who was stealing beer from, I think it was beer from like a convenience store, and it looked a little bit like David Schwimmer, and then he then replicated it himself, which was very funny. Looks quite similar. Maybe it's the fact that it's like a jail type thing. Again, with like the expressions, it's like they've all been given different directions about what expressions to do. You know, Phoebe looks anxious, Chandler looks bored, Monica sort of looks bored but is also given that sort of model stare. Joey's just having a great time, not sure what Rachel's doing, and Ross again seems sort of spooked or something. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Not a big fan of it. Kind of weird. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 on the weirdness scale. Wow, this one is definitely up there as one of the more unusual photo shoots that I've seen from the Friends cast. Where to start? This sort of burlesque carnival turn of the century getup. Obviously it has nothing to do with the show, but it's something. Have to say, in this, David Schwimmer and Lisa Kudrow look fantastic. Both of them, whatever it is about this look really suits them. Not sure about the rest, but those two are pulling it off. Not sure about this as a whole. It is kind of weird. David Schwimmer and Lisa Kudrow are carrying this photo. Obviously it has nothing to do with Friends as a show. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's interesting to see them do something different. At least they've all got roughly the same expression this time, so that's always good to see. But it is pretty weird. Gonna give it an 8 out of 10 on this one. Okay, last one. I mean, don't love it. They do a lot, as we've seen in all these photos, a lot of these photo shoots have them like all over each other, literally lying on each other. In this very strange example, having each other's heads on each other, hugging each other. It's very much That's very much seems to be one of the ways like the photographers wanted to shoot them. And so this cast must have been so comfortable around each other because they must have spent so long literally just like lying in each other's laps. This one couldn't have been comfortable. I mean, Matt LeBlanc is doing his best at the bottom there, but I can't imagine he wanted to be in that scenario for very long. Apart from the weirdness of stacking their heads, it is quite a nice photo. It's lit very nicely, they're all smiling really sweetly, so there's a lot to like about it, but that is just so weird how they're just lying on top of each other, like with their heads stacked like that. So kind of weird, not too weird. Gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Well, there you have it. Those are some of the weirdest Friends photo shoots that I could find online. I think for me the weirdest has to be the junkyard. I can't imagine who came up with that idea. Was it because budgets were short and they needed to find a place to shoot? It's so completely opposite to anything in the show, at least maybe with the burlesque stuff. You can sort of relate it to the fact the show's a lot about relationships and love and that kind of stuff, but the junkyard, I really don't know what they were doing with that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. The original Huggsy channel is going to be all about Friends content, so do subscribe if you're a fan. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.